All right. Oh, you know what? This is a good topic, John. This is a good topic. What, John? Oh, I should probably introduce you at this point before just stop.
Just start going in it.
At this point, these new listeners, you got new and old coming in through. They probably need to know who you are.
I figured by now, the only people that are listening because I'm talking on your show.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I know. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe we'll see how big. I haven't checked how many views. Let's see how many views your last episode got, John.
I'm surprised if it got one.
4.
Sounds about right.
Oh no, that's 4 on YouTube though. It's 4 on YouTube. I have other platforms. They're not. It's actually. All the other ones have gotten more. I promise.
Wait, you put it on YouTube?
It's on YouTube, Apple, Spotify. So that I'm just looking on YouTube.
Wait, what do you do for YouTube? Is it just audio then?
No, well, yeah, I just do the audio. I just put a picture of a thumbnail.
Oh.
And then so on Spotify it has 3. Don't worry.
Oh, okay. So, okay. Yeah, I'm still surprised.
The other one's gotten more, I promise. We got 300 the other day. Anyway, so let's talk about John Emberson. Let's see. Who is John Emberson?
Just a young fella.
Just a young fella trying to make his way in the world, huh?
Just trying to have my computer and my phone work. That's all I want.
Those are luxuries you cannot afford, John.
Not right now, no.
I think when we're talking about things that don't go right. Okay, so this is a good point of starting. So as listeners of this episode will know, because they definitely listened to the last episode of this podcast, I hurt myself skateboarding, and so I couldn't walk. Long story short, I couldn't walk. I couldn't walk for the first couple days, and I decided to go out one day because I couldn't just sit inside. And I was going up the escalator to the metro here in Budapest, and halfway up there was this girl. I'm hobbling. I'm limping everywhere. And halfway up, going up the escalator, this little girl just hits the stop button. The red safety stop button. And I'm at that moment, I was I just started laughing because I was that's just funny at this point. Cause
yeah.
I'm hobbling everywhere around the city just trying to get groceries. And then this little girl just stops the escalator. So we're all and I'm it's literally in the middle, and it's a long escalator. It's going all the way underground. These are long escalators. It's not just a few steps. And I was just okay, I just started laughing, because I just thought it was funny. And I think, and I was thinking that's a way to get through, that humor is such an important way of getting through life, you know what I mean? And it's kind of learning to recognize the absurdity of everything and to accept the humor in life, because things can get real serious, you know what I mean? But I think it's also very important to realize when you need to laugh at things, and that's something I've kind of been thinking about recently, just because of that situation, and I think it's just important because I think I've been watching some comedies or whatever over the past few months, and it's just been nice to kind of it's nice because you just forget things, you know what I mean, and then you're not really taking life as in a serious way, in a way you can still take it serious, but it's it just brings levity to the whole absurd situation of everything that's going on. And I want to know, John Emberson, what you think about humor and what role humor plays in your perception of living a meaningful life.
Well, yeah, I guess it's probably the like you said, the one thing that you can have in your life that escapes reality for the time, for a short amount of time, is being able to find humor in things. Like you said, I think you make a point is it I feel like it gives us ability to like step outside of like all the seriousness of everything going on. And that's why another good point too that you brought up is like comedians. Like I think the reason why comedians work so well is because it's like they could talk about serious subjects in a more like humorous way. And it's like how, you know, I don't know the direct line of why that is, but there's obviously something there that we can all relate to, which helps. You know, I think it brings a sense of like I guess I think it's like a good balance of like you can't take everything so serious, but also like you can't just like blow off everything. It's like it kind of forces you to be in a mindset of being like, okay, like we're all going through this. This is all like a little silly. Like we can joke about this and laugh because it's something that's relatable.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's helpful for me. Particularly, it's helpful because it's like I definitely take things too serious a lot of times, and I think that when I get to joke about something or someone brings up something that's funny, it takes a second to like, you know, like go back into that mindset and be like, oh, okay, like, oh, like, wow, I was a little too hard about the situation, you know, like I was a little too intense about this, and it's like takes that like little like someone makes you crack a like a laugh or something like that, cracks a joke and it makes you laugh, and you're like, and then you feel better afterwards. You're like, why is that? You're like, oh, because I was being too serious about everything. You know, I just needed a good laugh to be like, all right, I'm being a little silly right now. So I think it's a good reliever sometimes, and it's something that puts your I guess your mind in a different perspective of like, we don't have to take things so serious all the time. Also, like you can't control. You have no power in things you can't control. So, you know, what's the best thing you can get upset in this situation, but if you take being upset on it versus laughing at the situation, finding humor in it, I think we can all agree that like what the more positive outcome is. It's usually the laughter you get from it, you know? And I think it's like it's a stress reliever in a way. That's what I would say. If we're talking about humor, it's like a stress reliever of like, you know, like taking the numbness off of all the seriousness that happens around you all the time.
Yeah, totally. I definitely agree with that. It's like, you kind of, it just lightens up the air, the attitude. And I think it kind of makes me think about your ability to laugh at yourself. And, you know, there's a lot of things that you do and I do and anybody does is that you're just kind of unaware of because you're just in your own head and you don't really see it as anything. You don't like good, bad, like whatever. You don't really have it. You can't look at it objectively, and then when somebody calls you out on something or when something happens where you're forced to like reflect on your own whatever it is you've been doing, I think it's important to be able to look at yourself as objectively as you can in that situation and be able to laugh at yourself and be like, oh yeah, maybe I'm like, you're right. Like it's pretty ridiculous or it's pretty stupid or whatever, because I think without that you're just kind of you're always just taking yourself way too serious, you know what I mean? I think it's not necessarily a bad thing to take yourself serious, but I think there can be like anything in the extremis, it's it can be harmful, and it's not necessarily something that I think it adds a lot to like a character. Like it says a lot about a person's character, their ability to laugh at themselves and build their ability to not take themselves so serious, and to look at themselves in a way that that's not so strict or not so stringent about certain things. So what do you think about taking yourself serious, and like do you consider yourself someone who doesn't take themselves seriously?
Oh no, I think I take myself to, you know me. But for the listeners,
for those listeners,
yeah, no, I take myself way too seriously a lot of times, and like I said, I think that's what. So what's interesting about this topic is it is definitely something like humor is something that happens that like is like almost unexpected, like it when it happens, and then it makes me realize how serious I take myself sometimes, you know?
Yeah.
So like it's funny because it is like a crazy tool that happens where it's like I'm not even like forcing myself to like laugh at things. I just find things funny, and then when I start laughing, I'm like, oh my God, like, yeah, that makes so much sense. So like, why was I stressing about that, you know, or like something. And I think that obviously not everything, but like I've obviously had it multiple times where I laugh at something and then I realize how serious I took myself just a few seconds ago, you know? It was like it took that like looking back at it retrospect and like laughing about it and then be like, oh, I was being way too serious about that, or I was being way too hard or upset about that, you know? So I think yeah definitely, like, and I think because of humor, it reminds me that I'm hard on myself, you know, because like you said, when it's just like the everyday thought process or like whatever situation you're dealing with, you're so much in your head about it, you don't realize like how much you're thinking about it, or like how much it's affecting, or like people see how it's affecting you and how you're putting off yourself. And then like I said, it's something that comes along where someone cracks a joke or you find humor in something, and then you laugh about something about what you were like struggling with or whatever, and you're like, yeah, that really put it in perspective of like I was being way too hard on myself, but I wouldn't have known that until like I found like humor in something.
Yeah. I mean, it's like you don't like. I think it's one of those things where it's like comedians, like you mentioned, they have such a eye for that sort of thing. They have such a mind for that sort of way of observing the world. And you know, I don't have that, but I don't have it in that way. You know, it's not that we all can't be funny at some points, right. But it's like when you make it your career, or you make it like your life, right? You make it your life to be funny and to bring other people up in that way. Yeah, I think it's so cool because, you know, we all get trapped in that, and it brings perspective. I feel like, you know, we're constantly wrapped up in whatever problems we think we need to fix, or, you know, issues we need to deal with, and responsibilities and obligations, and then being able to step back from it all and just laugh at the small things that happen or the big things in your life that are going on. You're like, oh yeah, like you're right, that is. And I think it's important too, because like I think the comedians I gravitate towards the most are the ones that are, and I'm not like super, I mean, I used to be more into comedy, you know, like when we were in high school and stuff, but I mean, I'm not like a huge comedy guy right now, but I still like certain comedians, you know, when they come out with certain specials and stuff. And I think the ones I gravitate to more are the ones that really like take the seriousness of life and just make it really funny. I don't know if you've seen Neil Brennan. Have you seen Neil Brennan's new stand-up?
No, I haven't.
Do you know Neil Brennan?
No.
He was a writer for the Chappelle Show.
Oh, okay.
Him and Dave Chappelle. And he had one special called Three Mics, which is really good, and then he had another one he just released, and maybe like last year or something. And that one's really good, dude. I would recommend if you he talks about like depression, and he talks about like just his mental health, and like he puts his like mental health in context, and it's super funny, and I would definitely recommend.
Yeah.
I think that's like one of like the best, because it was for me, it was like he took an approach to it that was like, it just kind of lifted this veil on underneath like some serious topics, you know what I mean?
Right.
And for me, it was really cool to see that. And you know, I think it's also too, I think it's important because like I want to get your perspective on like dark humor and humor that like we shouldn't laugh at, but we do because it's funny, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, what do you think about dark humor? How do you view dark humor?
Well, yeah, I think it's the way I look at it is like on an outside perspective, like whenever you see a scenario where someone's like cracking a joke or like, you know, being silly, maybe like saying something a little more intense or whatever, and someone doesn't laugh at it and gets like really upset, you know, and like and before I continue this conversation, like, you have every right to be upset. Like, that's fine. Like, you're right to your own opinion about things. But when I see those situations, I'm like, I don't want to be that person. You know, like, you can tell, like, when that happens, like, they have, like, deeper, like, problems going on in their life where they're, like, can't express, like, their, like, humorous side, you know? And it's like they just, like, want to be upset. And it's like, when you get upset with something like that, like, it's a direct line from like anger and like unresolved like issues, and I think that's like a negative thing that happens. So, but then you see someone who like laughs at things, they're like, oh, that was hilarious, you know, like, you don't have to agree with anything, like, it doesn't have to be an agreed, it's just a joke, you know. And the people that can laugh about it, it's like I don't know, they just seem like more genuine people. And I think that correlates a lot more when it's like you said, like dark humor, like it amplifies it, you know. It's like it really tests like how serious you like think about things, you know, because it's like, you know, and like unless there was someone that was saying something that was actually intended and like wasn't meant to be a joke, that's different. But like if the intentions are like, you know, supposed to be like playful and like, you know, like joking around and stuff like that, and in return you get humor out of it and it brings you joy, then like that's the best thing. So it's like, even if it's dark, like you can't take everything so seriously all the time, you know. And if you can't, I think there's other issues you got going on. like I think it's just like, you know, like I said, I understand that people get upset with like certain topics or whatever when it goes to like dark humor of like really heavy subjects, and people are like, you can't mess with that. Like, I've experienced that, or I have a family member that's been going through that or whatever. And it's like yes, like you're entitled to that. That's fine. But like also at the same time, it's like there's something missing that's not been resolved in your life, that you aren't able to laugh at a subject like that. Cause it's like, it's a reliever. Like, it's like you laughing about something, even if it's like a intense, huge subject. Like you said, it's like things that we shouldn't be laughing about, we laugh about. It's like, there's a reason behind that. It's a tool that lets us like release our emotions about things, you know, in a more positive way. Cause like, you know, like crying versus laughing is two completely different things, but then we laugh too, you know, and that's like a more intense version of both those emotions. So it's like, I think it's like just a genetic tool that we have, emotional tool that we have, that if you can't laugh at something like dark humor or something like that, there's like something else going on that you haven't resolved in your life, or like something that happened in your life that you haven't like faced head on. Because I think the tool of laughing is helpful. It's a more positive way of like releasing your emotions versus like getting upset or getting angry or crying. You know, crying has its place too, but like, you know, I think there's laughter and crying are like the better tools to have than being upset or mad at somebody because someone said something.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I would say too, just to add on to what you said, is, you know, there are times and places for things. And I think this is it's like so important to take everything within context, because, like you said, like there's ways to go about things, and there's certain things that people have a right to get offended by because there are certain offensive things to do or say.
Right.
But at the same time, you know, without mentioning anything specific, it's like there is a way to laugh at things about life that is kind of like within the privacy of your own mind. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean, and I think there's very much a difference between dark humor and actually trying to offend somebody.
Yeah, exactly.
And those are very different things. You know what I mean? It's like, and I think that's really important to add on to what you said, because like, you know, when you have a person that is genuinely trying to offend somebody and has malicious intent and is whatever, that's obviously a harmful thing, and we don't want that. But when there's a context where there's like things that we've all laughed at, like we all laugh at things that are like bad things to laugh at, and we know this internally, and we're like, oh, that's funny. But it also depends on like where it's being said, who's it being said by, who you're surrounded by, how it's, you know, what is the context surrounding this joke or this whatever it is that is, you know, funny or whatever. And And that's super important because like there's things I can laugh at between you and I that I wouldn't ever say out loud or
Mr. Tyler's
in
class.
public. Yeah. Just like things that you don't laugh at. I mean, not to say like I'm laughing at like
No.
I mean,
No.
you know what I mean? It's like there's always like it's always within
No,
context.
like you said, there's this inner feeling where you're like this isn't inherently funny. Just the situation is making me laugh, but it's like it's not like you're laughing because you're like that is hilarious and like I have no remorse. It's not. It's like something you can't control. You know, it's like I said, it's a tool. Yeah. It's like an intuition that you have or a reaction that you have that you can't control sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Dorsey will say, like my partner Dorsey, she'll say like a messed up joke and we'll laugh about it. And obviously, like, I'm not going to say I'm not going to say what she said, but I mean, it's like, it's just funny because like, we know we don't actually think these things. Yeah. Or like, we know it's not, we don't have malicious intent. It's funny to think about.
Yeah.
It's funny to think about certain ideas within a certain context. Yeah. And I think that's the key. Speaks to the broader point on anything we do is like it's always context. You know what I mean? Yeah. If I was next to an actually like racist person who wanted certain types of people to no longer live, like, and they said a joke that was not cool, like that was very much along those lines. Obviously, that's not a funny context. That's not. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so like that's. I mean, it's not. It's like. Everything is context dependent. Yeah. Everything is so context dependent. And like, I think this is something that I think we need to, that I've been thinking about has been how we view like history within context, because, there are so many things where you look back and you're like, how could that have happened? Like, how could people have thought those things? You know what I mean? And it's like, how could slavery anybody could have thought slavery was cool? You know what I mean? Or like, yeah, that's a good thing. Or like, that's what we want or anything. Like women don't have the right to vote. Like who thought that was a good idea? You know what I mean? And it's like, and you could find a lot of other circumstances like that. And, it's like, these are things that we need to put into context, that we need to like look back on it. And you're like, wow, you're right. Really messed up. How did we get to that point? You know what I mean? Like, how did humanity come to a point where that was like an okay thing to think at the time, or at least within certain groups, within certain areas? You know what I mean? And it's really interesting because like when you start viewing that when you start viewing society from a from a certain context, you kind of see like where the shortcomings were, and then how do we evolve. Like, how do we continue to evolve, knowing that we are right now coming to shortcomings that future generations will look back on as like, yeah, remember those guys in the 2020s? Like those guys were insane. Like how could they have thought this one thing? You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think that's really important. And I don't know if that's something you've kind of thought about.
Yeah, I like you said, the whole. Everything that you're talking about is just context, like, and there's a place and time for everything. And, looking back of like those certain aspects that happened way back then, like how could we ever, but it's like, you don't know what it was like back then. Like you didn't know how everybody thought, like it was just a different world, and it's like, we all like to think that we'd be, perfect. And if I was back then, like I would think this way. It's like, you don't know, like you don't know what the day-to-day life is. It was different back then, and it's like, it's important for that, but that's the context of everything that we're talking about right now too. Is like, there's context for everything. There's a time and place. And like, I also think that's like touching up on that too, is just like not to be so sensitive about everything so much, it's like, of course, like we can all agree, like when it comes time to be serious about things, like we can, most of us can agree like hey, that's not okay, like that's just not okay or whatever. And then there's other things, it's like, oh, that's fine, like you're just being playful. And then there's like intent, and then there's like being like playful, and like there's two completely different things between those two. So it's like it really depends on the scenario. But like I also think that like, I don't know, like it really I think it's reading the situation correctly too, because it's like if you don't, then you could take things in a poor manner that weren't meant to be that, like meant to be something that was perceived as something that was poorly said, or it's like yeah, I guess I don't know where I'm going with this, but I think that it's something that like whatever we talk about is important to realize that, like, there's a time that's we could talk about it that's serious, and then there's another time we could talk about it where it's like, yeah, but like it was kind of funny, right? And it's like, no, and like on paper it's not funny, like no, it wasn't funny, but like we look back and it's like, yeah, like that's crazy that we thought about that, like that we thought that way back then, right? Like we can all agree that's like pretty crazy that we thought about that. That's kind of funny, right? Like, yeah, like I said, not on paper, but like it, like in retrospect, thinking about it, it is funny. So it is.
I mean, sorry, continue.
It's important to, I guess, like learn from our mistakes, but also like being able to like not so be uptight about everything too, because it's like, we're like, especially like, I mean, what you just mentioned too is like bringing up the our history. It's like there's a lot of dark there. There's a lot, like we've come a long way, but it's like it's okay to like talk about it and like laugh about things, like it's okay. Like we've obviously gotten a lot better at it. And if we don't talk about things, if we can't laugh about it, there's an issue. It's like what I got when I started this, like we started this episode. It's like I think there's like there's underlying things that haven't been resolved if you can't laugh at a situation, whether it's in the present or something that happened in the past. Like there's something, if we can't talk about it in a way where we can laugh about it, like there's something that hasn't been resolved about that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like we should be able to laugh, cry, be upset. Like, there's so many things that you could be at any sort of subject, and like to be able to express yourself in any way is the proper way to deal with those things. Not just like, oh, well, we can be everything else on that subject, but we can never laugh about those things. And it's like I'm sure you can find humor in anything. You know what I mean? Like everybody has a different stage of humor too. And like I think, like I said, it's important to realize that there's probably underlying issues that are happening if we can't laugh about something, whether it's the history or present.
Yeah, I mean, I think like you said, it's but it depends on the person. Like not everyone's, like you said, everyone's humor or everyone's idea of whatever has happened. We're not saying any specific examples, but we're just saying like in terms of like looking back in time, everyone has their own ideas and how they view things, and so not being able to communicate, number one, about things that have happened is the worst thing you could do. But then not being able to laugh about certain things as well. Not to say that specific examples are like funny, but it's like in no way is like the atrocities committed by humanity for our the entire time being humans is like funny. Like it's not funny to like be a society that murders its own people. Like that's not funny, but it's something that we need to talk about, and in order to talk about it, we need there's different ways to talk about it. There's different ways to communicate it, and our ability to like reflect from the present moment in a way that we can like self-reflect on just humanity as a species and our place in it. We need to be able to. There's a lot of ways that I can go, and certain people gravitate towards certain ways of thinking about it, and I think it's just important, like you said, to be able to kind of reflect enough to realize like, hey, I'm not being to make sure that you're not being like so strict about how you feel, and you're like underlying issues, like the ideas that like you. The underlying issues of like, am I being insecure about this, or is this like, why don't I feel like I can talk about certain subjects? Why don't I feel like I can laugh about certain subjects?
Right.
It just goes for everything. And there's things like, I think this is interesting because there's things that I would laugh at there's things that I would laugh at that other people would never laugh at in a million years because they don't think that's funny or whatever. And there's certain things that like are certain experiences to me that I feel like I have a place to laugh at from, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and it's like, oh, like I'm a part of some sort of subset of a community that looks back at something and be like, oh yeah, that's funny because like those are my people.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
And then other people have that, you know, other people have that sort of thing. And it's like, yeah, and then other people would feel like very uncomfortable laughing about certain things that I could laugh at because I'm like, that's part of the community I'm a part of.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? And so, you know, there's that, and it's all, you know, you have to take that into account. And again, like I said, it's all context, like who are you talking to, how you're talking to. And I think this is like why it's so dangerous it's so dangerous now, because it's like, I don't even know, especially like putting things out on the internet. It's like you have to be so careful about everything. It's like, who knows who's gonna like look back on this and be like, oh my God, like John and Evan, they're absolute monsters for talking about laughing at unidentified subjects. But
I also don't think you should like walk on eggshells. You know what I mean? Like I think there's a good balance of that too, though, because it's like, and this brings up another topic too, is like everybody's different. Everybody reacts to things differently. You don't have to be a part of a community in order to laugh at something. If that's your reaction to it, that's fine. You know, like that's your genuine reaction to it. You know, like I said, if it's when it becomes a problem is if it's through something that's like negative. If like you're laughing at someone because you're like making fun of them, or like, you know, you're being hateful towards them, that is completely different conversation. You know, there's appropriate reactions, but that's the thing too, is like I think a big part of it where you have to be careful, like you say, what the dangers in it is, like a lot of times people want to censor that because they're like, well, if I laugh about that, people are going to think I'm a monster. It's like, that doesn't necessarily mean that's true. You know, you can laugh at something and it doesn't inherently mean that you're laughing at that person or like at that thing that you're talking about. You know, it's something that's just a natural reaction from whatever you heard or whatever. So you don't necessarily have to be a part of a community or like part of like a group or whatever to relate to something if you have a genuine reaction that's in a positive manner, obviously. But like it's also like, you know, you can't be so numb to everything that you're like, well, I don't want to like cry if I hear, I don't want to cry, but that's my genuine reaction. I want to cry because I don't want people to think certain things of me. It's like, that's already an issue. Like you're already, you know, you're like hindering yourself from something, unless it is a problem, something that you're like working through, obviously. But like laughter is one of those things. It's like, oh, well, I'm not going to laugh because I don't want people to like, you know, like look at me any different. It's like, it's okay. Like it's, you know, like I said, unless you're doing it with a different intention, of course. But if it was just your natural reaction of just like, oh, it's just funny. Like, not that like I want any of this or whatever the case may be, but it's like, that's just a natural reaction. And I think how people perceive other people is when it becomes an issue. So it's like, if you see someone that like laughs at a joke that you take super seriously and you're like, that is not funny. And it's like, I think the better position to have is like, if somebody laughs at something that you take offense to, and you have to self-analyze yourself. It's like, well, is it an offensive joke, or is it just, am I being offended by it? You know, there's two completely different things. Like if there's somebody that's being hurtful towards someone or having like a negative like attack on it, then that's different. But like, it's just like, if you don't find it funny, that's still okay. Like there's nothing wrong with that, you know. But a lot of times people like, no, like you said, if we look back at this conversation that we're having right now and we look back and we're like, I can't believe we said that, it's like, you know, like that's a part of learning too. Like you know, maybe I look back and I laughed at something and I look back and I'm like, I honestly probably shouldn't laugh, and that was not a good time for me to laugh. But like, I can agree now, like that I've like grown and matured, that like I can understand. Or like, you know, there's maybe a time where I look back and I'm like, oh, I didn't laugh, but like I could have laughed at myself. Like someone was making fun of me and I was like being hard on myself and like getting all mad. It's like, if I would have laughed, it would have made the situation way better. So it's like, of course we're going to look at everything in retrospect, and that's okay too. You can't just be like, well, I'm not going to laugh, I'm not going to cry, I'm not going to get upset about anything because I don't want anybody to think any differently of me. It's not a proper reaction to whatever you're interpreting, you know? So I think it's Also, that's also what's important is like if the degenerate reaction doesn't necessarily inherently mean that it's something that's in a negative manner, you know, like it's how you perceive things. If that's just a reaction, people cry about certain things that you're not supposed to be crying about, or there's people that laugh about things that you're not supposed to be laughing about. It doesn't necessarily mean inherently it's like a negative thing that they're doing. It's just a reaction that they have, you know.
What do you find you laugh most at?
You.
Honestly, though.
No.
Me too. I laugh at myself.
I like relatable things. I think like if I can laugh at anything, it's relatable things. It's like when someone says something that's relatable, I can't help but laugh because I'm like I do the same thing, or I'm like I have experienced it. You know, it's like. And it puts it, like I said, it puts it in perspective because it's like as soon as someone says something that's relatable, like I usually get a good chuckle out of it because it's like, you know, someone's like, I come back like, I freaking broke down the other day and like spent 2 hours on the interstate like trying to get my car to work, and I'm just like sitting there laughing because I'm like, dude, the only reason I'm laughing is because I've been in your situation, you know? So it's like relatable things. It gets me every time, you know, because it's like, it's like, I feel like it's it's dipping back into that human experience. It's like, oh yeah, we're all doing this shit together, you know? We've all been through the same things, a lot of us, you know? So I think relatable things is definitely one of them for me. What about you?
Yeah. For me, I would probably agree with you. I mean, like things that are relatable, I think those are the most. I mean, I think those are the most funny. It's like, because like you said, it's something that you can. It's making fun of yourself in a way too, because you're like, that's me.
Yeah,
that's literally
exactly.
me. It's like, for good and bad. Like for it's like, I'm stupid too. Like that's just I do the same thing, or like you're like, oh yeah, that happened to me or whatever. And I also think I like just like dark humor too. Like I don't like, you know, friends will say stuff or whatever, and I'd be like, it's like I think there's also things like that, like it's like only certain types of people. And I know you get this with like in a mechanic shop or something where you're like the guys there are just like like
no
saying
filter.
things where you're just like no filter. Yeah, that's the best way to put it. Like no filter. And the same thing like in the Marine Corps, like we're just like saying things that are like there's no filter. There's no filter on it, and it's messed up. And you're like, what is going on?
But that's the thing, though, is that's the place for it. And when we talk about time and place, like that is the place to say like whatever you're thinking, and you know, don't hold back. It's crazy, but those places exist, man.
And it's not like I'm saying that in public around people that I obviously like, I'm not putting that out there. But it's like everyone has those moments where you're like. Everyone has that where it's like that specific context with those specific people in that specific time with my specific attitude, like that was funny.
Yeah.
And it was like, and it's funny like think back on that because like I don't know, like I feel like especially like I don't do it really anymore. I mean my attitude's really changed, but like I remember like being in the Marine Corps, and I was like everyone was just like shitting on each other constantly. Yeah. It's just like everybody all the time. And it was like, honestly, it just got to a point where it was too much. But it was like, it's just funny to think back about how we like look back on those situations, and we're just like, I don't know. It's like, it's almost like, you know, it's like when you're really close with people, you know, it's like you can know what you can get, you know what you get away with, you know what you can say. And you know, I think this is something else, which is kind of, I think it's kind of cool. It's like, it really shows how close you are to somebody when you know you can like talk shit to them. Yeah. And then they're like, it's endearing in a way.
Yeah, it is.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's true.
It's like, you know, like you just chat on me. You're like, oh, you laugh at me or whatever. And I like, obviously, you know, like obviously like, that was a light example, but it was like, it's like, you know, the types of people you have like such a close relationship with, where you can say things to them that you would never say to anybody else, and but you know that like it's endearing because you know them in a certain way, and you know what makes them laugh, and you know like the context, you know the person. I think that's like that's one of like the most special ways to laugh and to find humor is like humor in having that sort of relationship with somebody else where you can talk to them in a certain way that is you know, humorous, you know what I mean?
It's those situations. It's really when people just don't take themselves so seriously. And then the funny thing on top of that is that the people that take themselves way too seriously is even more funny. Like, and I'm sure you've had this in the military, because I had it like when I was in construction with all the guys, there'd be one guy that could not handle a joke, and he would get hammered. He would get hammered because it was hilarious. It was like, dude, if you would just laugh, we wouldn't, it wouldn't be so bad, but you take it so poorly that it's funny, Yeah. And it's like, it's just those situations, and it's like, like you look back and you're like, all right, like we could have been nicer to him, like in retrospect, if I write down, it's like, but it's like, I can laugh at the situation because it was a situation. It's like, if in order to like work in that environment, like that was what it takes. Like you have to let things slide off your shoulder, and if you're uptight, like you're just gonna get hammered with like people cracking jokes and stuff like that. Like that's the environment, and like not to say that's necessarily right or wrong, but like that's the situation. Like if that's the environment that I was working in, like I wasn't gonna be the guy. If someone cracked a joke, I would laugh too. Like where it's like, oh, you can't even do anything, and it's like, yeah, you're right. Like I'd make fun of myself, and then like people would laugh and like, he's a good one, and it's like, because I'm not so serious about everything, because like if I am, like you said, it's like then you sit there and you just get pelted with all these things, and it's just hilarious.
I think that's life, dude. I mean, I think that's like I always say, like, if you, this is like, it's not like I came up with this, but if you can dish it, you have to be able to take it. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Like, if you're the person who's like talking crap to somebody else, or, you know what I mean, in that environment, you have to be able to take it, because if you can't, you're just like, that's like the worst, is like people who like crap on you, or trying to like shit on you all the time, and then they can't take it themselves. You know what I mean? Because like, I'm not saying like I'm someone who just I'm not. I don't think but it's like, like certain people that I can talk to that are, I try to be kind to other people, but it's there's certain, like, if you can't take it, I talked to like Dorsey about, like, because like, like there's just small things you just make fun of people for. It's not like you actually mean any offense, and obviously like you can get extreme about it for sure. I'm not talking about that, but like, if you're able to like make fun of somebody in an endearing way, you better be able to reflect and be able to self-reflect enough in order to take what they say back, because without that, you're just, like you said, you're just uptight, and you're not somebody that people want to get along with. You know what I mean? Right.
Yeah. No, I think it really is, like I said, it's like, I think you have to like self-analyze yourself, because you're like, if I'm getting offended by like everything around me, and I'm getting upset by everything, people like cracking jokes on me, it's like, like I said, it goes back to what I was saying, is like there's an underlying problem. Like you're taking yourself way too seriously. Like you have flaws, and it's okay that people pinpoint when you have a flaw in your life, and they're like, hey, like you don't do this very good, and you're like, why would you ever say that? It's like, because I'm not good at this either, like it's fine. Like it's relatable, it's fine. It's not, we don't have to be perfect on everything. That's what makes things funny, is like, when people are cracking jokes on each other, it's because we all know we're fuck ups. Like we all fuck up in some way or the other. We make mistakes. It's okay. It's being able to relate to that and laugh about it is what makes it you a more healthy person, to like, be like, oh, like, I like that guy because he can handle a joke. Usually that means he's a good character, like I like that one person because she can really, like, if I'm digging into her, she really like laughs and hashes it back out at me, and it's like usually when you look at that situation, it's inherently like you have a good character, because you can like perceive things and be like, yeah, you're right, like I'm silly when it comes to that, or like, I am stupid, and like I agree, like I can agree with that statement, like obviously there's one thing putting yourself down, like that's one thing, but like if it's all within reason, right? Like, so that's, I think it shows that like inherently you have a good character of like being able to like handle a joke, being able to like not take yourself so seriously, being able to relate to other people and your own mistakes, and like being able to like, crack jokes back at people too. Like, you shouldn't be so preserved where you're like, I would never make fun of anybody. It's like, well, yeah, when you're in construction, the guys are cracking jokes at you, throw it back out at them. Like, that's the fun part about it, like it's just like, it's the scenario, you know, and and really, like, if we all, I know in those situations too, like some of the guys are like really rough around the edges, and I know that you have it too, but like I'm sure that if like shit like really went down and it got like super serious, those motherfuckers would have your back no matter what. You know what I mean? It's like, it's one of those where it's like if things got really serious, like it wasn't a joking matter, and like it was like something that was like, you know, like really, really serious, like they would be like 100%, you know, like with you on it. Like they wouldn't be like, oh yeah, like I'm, you know, would leave you or whatever. It's like, it's because you're able to joke about these people and like open up in that way that you have like a better relationship with that person. And then when it's time to be serious, they're like, no, I don't actually think you're a bad person. I know I joke about you all the time. Like, and I know I always say like, oh, he can't do crap, you know, but it's like, I don't actually think that. I'm just being stupid, you know. It's like that. And like I said, there's a balance, of course. Like, it's, you know, you shouldn't be insulting people, but in those situations, it is funny that I found that like there's so much humor. There's so much humor in certain situations where you forget that like when things get serious, like these people actually really care about you. Like it's that's their mechanism, is like being able to crack jokes because they want to make sure that you're vulnerable enough to not take yourself so seriously. Like they need to know that because they know they can't take themselves seriously. Yeah.
Totally. And it's like it kind of goes back to what I was saying in terms of like an endearment. It's like the way they show their love in a lot of ways too. Yeah. Some people, you know, it's like that's the way a lot of people show their appreciation for somebody, is like being able to joke with. I know that's like when I'm getting comfortable with somebody, and I think this is the same case for a lot of people. When I get comfortable with somebody, I know I can start like, you know, we can like make fun of each other and not feel like we're like offending the other person. Right. You know what I mean? And I think, again, like you said, it's all in moderation. It's not like I'm it's all light and it's fun, and that's the most important thing. Is like once it exits that realm, then it's something different, and then it's serious and it's not cool. But that's not what we're talking about. You know what I mean? And it's important not to get to that point. But yeah, I definitely agree with that. And unfortunately, I'm more stupid than I am, you know, not stupid. So it's easy to make fun of me.
Well, I think with the dumber brains, it's easier to laugh about more things. I find humor in a lot more things, and I think that puts my life in perspective.
Bro, that's the secret to life: is just be stupid, just be less intelligent, because you'll be able to laugh more and to not take life so serious. You'll be happier.
Yeah,
stupid people honestly are happier.
I mean, I've met a lot of people that inherently, quote unquote, have low IQs, and they're the most joyous people to be around because they don't take anything seriously, which is hilarious. What a life to live, man.
What a life to live. All right, we're gonna cut this episode short because you gotta get going, and then I gotta get going. But I wanted to leave a little bit of time for the music recommendations section of the podcast.
Yeah. Actually, that reminds me.
So, last week you recommended to me Jaejun. Jaejun on YouTube. It's like an old 90s emo band.
Yes.
Called Jaejun.
Yes.
Grayscale, and what was the other one?
Grayscale and That's Why She Hates Me, I think it is.
Yeah. That's Why She, or something like that. Excellent recommendation. They were sick, dude. It was super cool. Yeah.
Oh, dude.
I loved them.
So good, dude. Yeah.
It's sad. Dude, I'm looking at all the comments on YouTube.
I know.
Why aren't you on YouTube? Or why aren't you on Spotify?
I know.
Dude, I don't get it, but they're actually sick. I love the. It's such a. They've released 3 albums. I remember I looked at their Wikipedia and stuff.
Yes.
They
exactly.
released 3 albums in the 90s. They stopped. There's no more, and everyone's like, wow, this is like the greatest songs they've ever made, and then they nobody
just broke up,
saw them again. And then they actually have an Instagram. I looked into it.
Did they?
I found their They have an Instagram, and but that's like they don't really post any. I mean, they posted a few things earlier this year or something, but yeah, they don't really have a presence anywhere. And it's kind of I want to listen to their songs.
My favorite comment on YouTube is it's like check marks, and it's like get together with a band in the 90s check, and it's like come out with like 3 albums, check. Break up immediately after we make really great music, check. It's like have everybody obsessed with you for years and years on end, check.
It's literally like that. No, I really loved them.
Good.
They were sick. I mean, there's no reason I wouldn't have liked them.
I know. It's so good. It's funny, dude, because this is gonna sound so bad, and I think we've talked about this before, but like I don't know what it is, but like when it comes to like emo and like punk rock or like alternative rock, kind of like that genre, like Jaejoon, is like I'm usually not a fan of like women lead singers, like vocals. Like I don't know what it is. Like I don't know. Maybe because I can relate to like the guys like when they're like screaming and like.
Because you hate women.
Yeah, exactly. No, but like I don't know, dude. With the lead singer in Jaejoon, it's like so good. Like it fits so like her voice is angelic, dude. I don't know what it is, man, but I'm glad. I'm really happy to hear that you like it because I got upset. Like when I saw the YouTube videos, I tried to find every single song I could that was on YouTube and listen to their song. Great, it's a great band, dude. It's a great band.
Yeah. Deep cut. I gotta listen to their albums. I have to listen to their albums.
Yeah. Like I said, I know they're
on YouTube.
Yeah, that's the thing that's difficult is you can only find it because like I've found like music by them somewhere else. I think like SoundCloud or whatever, but like the quality was terrible. Like the ones that are good are on YouTube, and then even I try to listen to the live ones because like I wonder what they sound live, and they're terrible, dude. It's like not like the band was terrible, but the audio quality is like drowned out by like the bass and stuff, so it's like not good at all.
I know exactly because I listened to the live one too, and I was like I listened to a couple of them, and they're like completely distorted.
Yeah,
it's not the band.
It's not the
bad.
band. No,
like,
no.
I'm sure they sounded good live. It was the quality of audio.
Exactly. That's what I was like, because I was like, I want to listen to like their live like songs because it's probably the ones that aren't on like the other YouTubes, like the remastered ones or whatever. But like you can't hear the song because it's just like obviously it's like live music and the speakers. It just drowned out the microphone, which is not fault to them, you know. But I was like, damn, it sucks. Is there's not a whole lot of places to listen to them. That's the only unfortunate part, which makes it fun too, though.
Yeah, no, it is cool though. I really enjoyed them. And then you recommended PD USA.
Yeah.
His new album, great album. I listened to the whole
so
thing
good, dude.
at the gym.
Yeah,
it is so good. Honestly, like PD, that album is a solid album.
It's
very, very good. And you know what's interesting? Because I was like, what do we even like define PD as? I don't even. Like, I'm like thinking like it's like everything. It's everything. It's hard. I can't put PD in a specific category because it's like folk and it's like emo and it's synth and it's like rock and it's all these.
It's got electronic in it too. One. Yeah, it's a lot.
Exactly, and electronic. And I don't know what it is, but it's all this package of PD's music.
But it's so well-rounded, man. It's so well-rounded.
Yes, but it's very good. That's a very good album. I'm really happy. I got to listen to it again. I only listened to it once, but
no, I've been listening to like on my drive into work because it's like he has quite a bit of songs on there. I think it's like 10 songs, and they're like you said, they're all like really good songs. Like they're not fillers, you know.
No, definitely all really good songs. I really enjoyed it. So that was last week's.
Yeah. But the one that I can't pronounce her name. Dude, she has an amazing. I was like entranced. I think the first time I listened to the jazz one that you recommended to me.
So I recommended you.
I don't know how to say it. That's why I'm not even going to say it.
This won't last. It was by a Hungarian band.
Yeah. This won't last. Yeah, great song. Very, very.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I was a little skeptical because I was like, it's hard for me just to listen to jazz. Like if I listened to it live, it'd be one thing, but like. Her voice is incredible, dude. She's very, very talented. And then obviously with like the instruments in the background are phenomenal because now that I've taken an appreciation of what jazz music is, I can actually listen to it now. But I'm not going to lie. I thought I was going to struggle with like listening to a song like that, but it was good. Like I listened to a few of their other songs too. And that, great. Good recommendation for sure. I would love to see them live. I know I would appreciate it more if I saw them live.
Yeah, no, they're like super low key band out here. It's jazz, but it's not, especially that song specifically. It's like there's a lot of other. Yeah. It's not.
The only reason it's like jazz is because it has like trumpet and like saxophone in it. It's like it's air. Yeah. The air what are they? The air instruments, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's jazz, Yeah. I was
the
surprised.
Wind instruments.
Yeah, the wind instruments, yeah. I was surprised when I listened to it. I was like, oh, this is not what I was expecting.
Definitely, yeah. They definitely have like some experimental songs, I think, but
Yeah.
that specific song is very good. And it was, I'm glad you liked it. So what do you have? What do you recommend me today?
Oh shoot. I might do a cop out one on this one. I'm gonna do a cop out one.
Make it a good cop out.
Well, you already know it because I sent it to you. But it's I just want to kickflip into the sunset and disappear by camping in Alaska. Such a good song. I've been like listening to it like when I leave the gym. Is something about it where it's like because the first part of the song is, I know that you know this, but first part of the song is like a clip from The Office where he talks about depression. And like as soon as Michael Scott's like, Dwight, you ignorant slut, it like starts with the like heavy guitar, and it's like I don't know what it is, but it's such a good transition, dude. I love that song. So good.
It's literally Dwight's like, depression. Isn't that just a fancy word for feeling bummed out?
And Michael was like, Dwight, you ignorant slut.
like any good Midwest emo song ever starts with some sort of clip from somewhere, and then it just goes into 100%, like a heavy,
dude,
technical guitar riff.
Yeah. There's one other that I would recommend to you. I really don't think you're gonna like him.
Okay.
Because it's more of like folky, like old school folky music.
Okay.
But
I like old school folky.
Well,
music.
it's like banjo. It's like, well, it's not actually, that I lied. It's not banjo. I forgot the name of it. Do you know where I forgot the name of it, but where they use like a metal ring on the guitar, like an electric guitar.
A slide guitar.
Yeah. It sounds like very, I don't know what the word is, but anyways. He's really good. Charlie Parr. It's just Charlie Charle, and then Parr. His last name is Parr, Parr. But I like the song that got me into him was "Remember Me If I Forget." Mm-hmm. But the one other song I'll recommend is 1922 Blues. That's another good one.
Okay.
But I don't know. I don't think you really like it, but it is good music. Like if you like that type of music, I got into him. He's a little more like not as known, and I saw his like live music. I know you know this, but I've been really like finding random music on YouTube and watching like live like shows of stuff, and I found him, and God, it's just him. It's just him and his guitar, and he's got a very unique voice. So yeah, Charlie Parr, he's pretty good. I like him.
Cool, sweet. I'm definitely down. I mean, I like listening to music, even if I don't like it. I'm just try new things. So I'll definitely listen to it. The one I'm going to recommend you.
Yes.
Is, I don't know if you've heard it, then you might have heard it. If you've heard it, I definitely makes sense because it's like right up our alley. If you haven't, then I think you're really gonna like it. It's called. It's by Two Blinks I Love You, Carnegie Hall. Have you heard of it?
I don't think so.
Okay, if you haven't, good. They're not like big. They're not like super big or anything, but there's a band I've discovered recently. Two Blinks I Love You, Carnegie Hall. It's very. It's like it's hard to describe. It's like emo, but it also has like.
No, I don't know.
It's like kind of like a emo indie. Kind of electronic. Like that's what I mean. It's a lot of what I listen to. Anyways.
You know what? I'll give you brownie points on this one. Only how many? 17,000 monthly listener. That's good rec, bro.
The last one I gave you was like one, like less than 1,000, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, dude, very good. I think you're really gonna like it.
I haven't.
I didn't know because it's funny because I only asked that because I think it's like right up our alley.
I'm sure
it's
I
like,
will love it.
It's like you know how you recommended me J June last time, so I think it's along those same type of. Cool. It's not like specifically like J June, but it's like that type of emo sort of vibe. So definitely let me know how you like it. Carnegie Hall. He has other great songs too.
Yeah, I just saved it right now.
Surprise and I Love You. So if you like that one, definitely check out his other stuff. I'd say I was listening to Carnegie at the gym today. I was like, this is a good song. Like I like. I'm really glad I found him. It's like a cool. Just has good music. I don't know much. I don't know anything about him. I haven't really looked into him, but
Sweet.
just his Spotify description just says Liam's new band. So I don't, I don't know.
That's how you know it's good. Very vague.
So cool. Let me know, and then
sounds
linked
good.
in the description for those.
I'm
young listeners.
on a real note though, I'm very excited that you like Jay June because I don't know what. As soon as I listened to the first one, I was like, "This is my music." Like this, if I could describe any type of like what would be my like ultimate music genre, it's probably that.
Yeah.
Like it's because if you listen, it's funny, dude. I don't know if I know you listen to Blink-182, but I don't know if you've ever listened to their like first couple albums, like Cheshire Cat and Buddha. But it has the exact same vibe as the YouTube videos of Jay June. It's just like old, raw. Like you can still see that they have like too much bass almost, and it's like the vocals get drowned out by like the heavy guitar, and it's like, I don't know what it is. Like that like shitty part about it is so raw and fucking powerful, man. I love it. I love it. So good.
Yeah, it's actually funny because I was listening to. So there's a really good podcast called I sent you. I don't think you've ever listened to it though. It's called Bandsplain. And it's a Spotify original podcast. And she basically is this girl. Her name's Yassi Salik, and she does she's a music journalist, and she does basically episodes about specific bands. And they're like hours long. There are literally like 4, 5, 6 hour long podcasts in multiple parts for like going into like the history of the band, and they play music and stuff. And it's a very, very good podcast. Dorsey's addicted to it, and I've listened to a lot of episodes as well. And it's funny because my point being, I was listening to like the Cure, the Cure episode. I've been listening to the Cure episode recently, and I really like we watched like old videos of the Cure. I've watched like because I've been going down like the Cure rabbit hole.
That's funny. I
love
literally listened to the Cure's album, the first album, all the way through at the gym yesterday, just randomly. Like
the Cure's so good.
It's so funny you mentioned that because literally out of nowhere yesterday I was like, man, I haven't listened to Cure, and I was like, I love that band, and I listened to the whole album, and now you're talking about you were been going. God, this just proves to you that we're on the same wavelength no matter where the fuck we are, dude. I seriously have not listened to Cure in like forever, Evan, and like literally just yesterday I was like, I'm gonna listen to like the first album and just like listen to the whole thing.
Dude, we can't separate our brains,
dude.
Our minds
I don't
are
know.
just connected.
I don't know when people talk about Beyonce wavelengths, I know what they're talking about.
Yes. It's like twins, dude.
Yeah, I swear, dude.
Some sort of metaphysical connection, bro. I don't get it.
No, they're great band, dude. Such a good band.
Such a good band, dude. The
Way
Cure
ahead
is
of their
so
time.
good.
Way ahead of their time. That's what makes them so good. Is like they came out with something that was so unique during that time, and like they put out. So I didn't realize how many different albums that they had. I didn't realize.
They put out a lot of albums.
I was looking at Spotify and I was like, I didn't realize they had so many. God, great band though.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Totally. My original point being, I've been watching like their old videos like back in the 80s, and then I've watched like new videos of the Cure now, or like Robert Smith playing, and it's like you have like all that time, and it goes back to like what you're saying, where it's like when the band's like not that great, it's like they're still rough on the edges a little bit. And then versus like 40 years later when they're playing, like they have mastered their instrument, they've mastered their songs,
perfection,
they're polished. But it almost like I want the original. You know what I mean? Like I want it when it wasn't perfect. I want it when it sounded a bit raw and rough.
Well, I think that's a beautiful thing. Is like it. I think if you're a fan from a band, like when they start up, that's the most rewarding feeling because you get to go through all those stages. Because like anybody who like sees like a very like well-rounded band, you have to admit whether you're a fan or not. If you go see like a live event, you're like, oh wow, this is a great band. Like you can just admit that. But like if you go to like just some random sports bar and you go underground and it's like this like drowned out music and you're like you either love it or you hate it, and if you hate it then you don't think anything of it, and then like maybe like 5 years down the line they get really good, and you listen to it, and you're like, oh, I remember seeing them in like a like a tiny little venue, and they were terrible, but they sound pretty good now. It's like I think there's a stage of all of it. So like if you're a fan when they were like raw and like kind of ugly, it's like you get to experience that part of like the special part of it, and then you're like, of course, like you don't. Like even if you have that feeling, what you're saying, where you're like, you look back and you're like, I kind of miss the like rawness of it, but it's like, well, they're obviously very talented, and I'm happy that they're super successful now too, and I got to see them at that time. But it's unfortunate, like what you said, where it's like we didn't see the Cure when they were like starting off. Obviously, like we knew I learned about the Cure by my mom, who they were already huge at the time, So it's like I can only imagine I would like seen them back then too, but it's just funny because it's like I know what you mean. It's like you want that rawness, but it's also like you can't be like that's what the band is, because like they just grew, like they're talented enough that they were always gonna be good at some point of time.
Yeah, no, that's great. It is cool, like just to see like how the talent evolves. Yeah, it's really interesting, and I like it's just kind of interesting to see. I mean, the Cure is great though.
Yeah.
Definitely. If you haven't listened to The Cure, listen to The Cure.
And it'll cure your depression.
It'll kill your depression. No, The Cure is so good. Actually, if you the podcast, I would highly recommend you listen to that. They have a Blink 182 episode, dude. You got to listen to it. I sent it to you a long time ago.
Yeah, honestly, I think that I want to say that I started it. What was it called? I think I even saved.
It's called Bandsplain.
Yeah. No, I do remember this. Yes, I did listen to it. This was a while ago when you recommended me this, though. I remember now.
Yeah, it was a while ago. But if it is really good, I like it. You might not like it, but it goes into all a bunch of like cult bands, like and they talk about like the history about them, and it's really good. So
yeah, I do remember this. All right, it'll
be linked in the description as well.
I'll add it to my up and coming too. Cool. Thanks.
Yeah. Cool. All right, John.
All right.
Thanks for being on.
You got it.
Episode in the books.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Later.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for being on.